Hello, everyone. This is Dino with the Rhode Island Wave. Welcome to the Zoom version of the Spotlight interview series. Today, I have a very special guest. She was a Miss Rhode Island volunteer back in 2023. She's since gone on to graduate college and is now participating in a study to help sexual assault victims come forward and talk about their experience and hopefully make some change in the world. Mykala, welcome. So it's been a little while.
Yes, I know. It's been forever. I think you guys did an interview with my Teen and Miss title holder for Rhode Island Volunteer, so that was really exciting.
Yes, yes, that was 2023.
Well, so you did one with me, but then I had Catherine Luzinski and Samantha Palazzi, so they came a couple months ago, I think.
Oh, okay, okay, right, okay, very good.
Yeah.
I do lose track, I must admit.
Hey, that's okay. I feel like you guys have so many, so no problem at all.
So how is it going?
Everything's good. I graduated from Boston University with my master's back in 2024, so last year, and then I've been working at a family law firm in the interim, so that's been really, really fun and exciting.
Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
Um, so I understand you have a research project going on.
Yes, I do. So it's called the Survivor Courage Project. And we are kind of collaborating with two faculty members, one from Eastern Connecticut University and then Providence College. And they're absolutely wonderful. And then there are a few other individuals who are serving as like peer research support staff. And we basically have been kind of looking to see how colleges support survivors of campus-based sexual assault. And it's been a wonderful experience so far coming up with the whole study for that.
Wow, very cool. So
Yeah,
that's a pretty heavy topic,
absolutely.
and that came out of your
Yes.
platform. Yes, your platform. So this is
Yeah.
continuing on in your adult life.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been really important to me because it's kind of a way in which I'm able to reclaim my power, but then help other individuals who are in similar circumstances. I think, going through school and recognizing the importance of providing spaces for survivors to feel empowered to speak up, feeling empowered to disclose is just so crucial because when we don't create these environments where there is this sense of openness, unfortunately, they become silenced. So I'm really excited to still be in spaces that serve survivors, and being able to work on this project has been amazing as well.
Great. And now you have a couple people you're working on it with. It's who are these folks you told me in your email?
So there's Molly Drizzen and then Sarah Nightingale. Both of them come from like a psychology and social work background. A lot of their work has been very survivor focused,
Mhm.
which is amazing. And they're able to teach it in courses that college students are being, required to take as part of their majors and as part of their graduation components. And they've spearheaded this. They received a grant, which is wonderful. And they brought myself and a few others on board, and it's been wonderful.
So what is the goal of the project? Are you just gathering information?
So the goal is to essentially identify areas where survivors haven't been supported. So perhaps it's an issue with the Title IX office. Perhaps it's an issue where, how some college professors say in their syllabus, if something's going on, you can disclose it to me. I'll, take the proper steps to help you in the reporting process. So that's at that point a mandated reporter. Maybe something with that wasn't as efficient as it could have been. Maybe there's a climate on campus that hasn't been conducive to recovery. So maybe they don't know what their resources are. They don't know what to do next. And we're basically looking to collect data from participants all across the country and bring it to college administrators so that they have a better understanding of where their weaknesses are so that they can improve daily life for survivors and all students on campus.
Now, when we say survivors, we're specifically talking about survivors of sexual assault.
Correct. So anyone who has experienced, we're specifically examining anyone who's experienced a campus-based assault.
Okay, now it seems like, do you have the numbers? Like, what kind of numbers are we looking at? How many girls are being assaulted on campuses every year? Do we know?
There are a lot. I know that 1 in 5 individuals will unfortunately become a victim of sexual assault at one point or another in their lifetime.
Mm.
And in a college context, there is this huge problem known as the red zone. So, from the time a student is dropped off in August to early September until around Thanksgiving, your chance of being assaulted skyrockets because there's so much change. There are students who are experiencing or experimenting with alcohol for the first time. They're with peers that they don't know, and the likelihood that they will become assaulted increases during that transition period. So it's really challenging because as you're, adjusting to being a college student, you're adjusting to kind of focusing in on a whole new environment. You have this real risk factor that no one talks about, and that's
Right.
when we have the largest problem kind of occurring.
Hmm. I wonder if we shouldn't be talking about that more. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Educating young women how to be aware that this is a possibility. I feel like I feel like I've been living under a rock. I had no idea that this was such a big. So, I guess when I got the note that that you were doing this study,
Mhm.
and you're talking to survivors and talking about their recovery, that sounds great. But the idea that this is even needed is just really kind of disturbing.
It's incredibly disturbing, and a lot of times it's something that colleges are more inclined to sweep under the rug,
Right.
unfortunately, because you don't. It's like if you walk into a restaurant and you know you're going to get food poisoning, you probably don't want to go there. You want to go to
Right.
and have a dinner where it's going to be the best meal of your life and you're not going to get sick. And unfortunately, when we're in these freshman orientation periods of students coming to school, there are so many other focus areas of how to make good decisions with drugs and alcohol, how to avoid drugs in the first place, but we're not talking about sexual assault ever because then colleges and universities are forced to admit some culpability that their campus isn't entirely safe. We see a lot of these instances with college athletics, unfortunately, where at parties that are hosted by the athletes, there is an increased risk at times. Athletes aren't really being given these conversations and these tools to recognize that if they are perpetrators, they will be held responsible despite their status on campus.
Mhm.
And it's very real. And when we continue to diminish the real threat, we're not really taking many preventative measures to ensure that it doesn't happen in the first place.
Right. So when you're doing this study to try to find women who have been assaulted,
Mm-hmm.
um, that they don't necessarily have had to have reported it, or they don't have to have gone to the police, because just because you're not going to the police doesn't make you not a victim.
Absolutely. And we're not even just looking for women, we're looking for men as well. Because it can happen to anyone of any sort of orientation, and that's important for us to acknowledge. And I am interested to see, the demographic of males who come forward, because I think there is a sense of shame of speaking up about your lived experience. But even furthermore, just because you didn't report the crime doesn't mean it didn't happen to you. I didn't report what happened to me because I was so afraid that I would experience such terrible fallout. I didn't want to feel a further sense of shame, and it kind of makes me feel as though I didn't have control in the situation. But we're hoping that by sharing these experiences and making administrators aware of this reality, you might feel a little bit more comfortable reporting what happened to you. You might feel a little bit more comfortable disclosing to a trusted professor, to your, Title IX officer. But there's a lot of underlying problems on these respective campuses that have to be addressed before that comfortability will ensue.
Right. So now, how can a person get involved in your in this study?
So we have an Instagram called at the Survivor Courage Project, and there's a link tree in there. So people are able to then go and sign up to see if they qualify. So we have a few questions. It's completely anonymous where people are able to share their experience. And if they kind of meet our qualifications, we will then invite them to be a part of the interview process. So we will, speak in a lot further depth about those lived experiences that well, to be able to code it and then to be able to collect the data. There's no compensation for participating. However, you will get enrolled to possibly get a $500 Amazon gift card by participating. So that's an at chance situation. But overall, we're just looking to bring so many voices to the table. That way people are able to kind of be heard, even if it's not in as forward facing of a way.
Now, do you have any goals for what you want to do with the information once you've gathered it? To
Not to
educate.
So, like, not to speak for the group, but I would say one of my own goals is, I think, bringing more student led resources to campus. There's an organization called It's On Us. I actually was able to successfully bring a chapter to Providence College, and it really fosters student dialogue. So we create this line of communication between students who are currently on campus and the administrators. It invites therapeutic resources that are not necessarily school sponsored to campus, because sometimes it feels uncomfortable talking with a counselor that you know is employed by the school. And it creates this kind of outlet to inspire further conversation. I'd love to see chapters of It's On Us put into all schools throughout the country as a result of this. I'd love to see forums that are being hosted where administrators are hearing direct reports of what's going on campus, because maybe you get a snippet of it after, reading a Title IX report, but maybe you don't, and maybe these concerns are not even reaching their ears. That's me being a little bit more optimistic, but really creating an environment where students are getting that line of content rather than them kind of reflecting back on these experiences where they're not able to, prevent them in the first place.
Right, and that could actually elevate the awareness so that girls could start uh, helping each other out,
Yeah,
perhaps. Um, I know that there was always rules about going out in pairs and keeping each other's back and watching each other's drinks, and
absolutely.
uh, I am sure that the date rape drugs are a part of this, and all
Yeah,
sorts of. One
it's
minute you're having a good time, and the next minute you're not in control of your body.
absolutely. And that's a reality that we also have to acknowledge. And I think one of the things too is, in theory, the buddy system is wonderful and it's great because you have people around you who will have your back. But at the same time, I'm 5'6". If there is an individual that, is perpetrating a crime that is bigger than me, stronger than me, it is a lot harder to intervene at that point. So there are some flaws there, but we also want to ensure, that police are having quick response times when you're seeing something, that staff who are, working at bars, working at school sponsored events, have the wherewithal to understand what behaviors might be more conducive to an assault occurring, and just kind of having that training. Because, we talk about it in April, so one time a year we'll discuss the issue of sexual assault and we don't really say much about it. And I feel that way about a lot of awareness months. They get so much of a highlight during that brief, 30, 31 days, whatever it may be, and then we're silenced. So
Mhm.
I think while it is great to have the buddy system, it's great to have an idea of what's happening. We have to start acting and creating quicker response times as well.
Absolutely. And perhaps educating potential perpetrators that
Absolutely.
they're hurting people. This isn't just, it's not, they're not just having fun, they're hurting people. Sometimes they're affecting people for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and I don't think they realize that either. And I think we've also created a really negative stereotype of what a perpetrator looks like and how they're supposed to act.
Right,
When we're, considering a perpetrator in movies, it's that creepy person that lurks in the shadows and they
right,
look a little odd, and that's kind of the dynamic that we create.
right,
So we have a lot harder of a time as a society when it is a quote unquote good person that maybe serves the community in a lot of ways, or maybe they're famous, or maybe they're just an overall good guy or girl. It's
right,
harder for us to acknowledge as people that they have to be held responsible for what it is that they do, and also
right.
defining the line of what consent really means, so that we're not putting people in this space in the first place.
Exactly. So, one minute are having a good time, and the next minute you've not heard the no, and you're going forward. But you yeah, it's a difficult, very difficult situation, which is, I think, prevention. This is one of those things where prevention is probably way better than trying to heal after on either side.
Absolutely. And even too, one of the first things I think is suggested oftentimes is, okay, this happened to you. What sort of therapeutic resources are available to you? But it's not that simple. I know so many of my friends, peers, loved ones have had such an issue finding therapists who work with their level of insurance coverage. I have people who are working 9 to 5 jobs, and unfortunately, they can't take an hour out of their day to sit in front of a therapist. And since COVID's happened,
Right.
the lines are outrageous to be able to seek out mental health help. So while we're, growing more friendly towards that practice, it's not always accessible. So I do think that there need to be further conversations about consent so that we're not in this boat in the first place. And it's not always just a no. You can tell when someone's not into something. You can tell when they don't really want to be there. I know I probably look that way when I'm, eating a dinner item that my mom makes for me that I don't really like. And I might not tell her outright that I don't love it, but it's on my face. You can tell. And I
Right.
think we need to, start kind of vocalizing what body cues may look like when someone's not feeling safe in a situation, what phrases you might hear, or what kind of, eye contact they're giving you that's kind of saying, I'm not looking for this unwanted touching or this unwanted, continued contact.
A couple of years ago, the women's gymnastic team spoke in front of, I think, the Senate, and I just thought it was one of the most powerful things I had ever seen. All of these women coming forward to talk about what their doctor had done to them. So this
Yeah.
isn't just, peers. This could be, someone in a situation like that where the physician is the one who took advantage of those girls. And I thought it was very
Right.
courageous of them to come
Absolutely.
forward and talk about what had happened and how it affected them.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. And I think it really just continues to show that when one person speaks, it ignites this fire where we all feel like, okay, this individual had a lot of courage. They felt empowered and they spoke their truth, and they're able to kind of, reclaim an aspect of themselves that felt so lost in a really horrible process to navigate. So I think that it is important, and I really commend people who are out there in the public eye and who are willing to kind of speak up, because in a lot of ways it shows that this is not, just something that happens to regular individuals. This is something that can happen to anyone. Anyone can become a victim. And I'm really happy that we are able to start acknowledging that.
Absolutely. Well, I commend you. I think you're doing a wonderful job. You take a bad situation and you're making something positive out of it. And I think
Absolutely.
hopefully this will help a lot of people,
Absolutely.
both boys and girls, men
Yeah.
and with prevention and getting help after. Because if you were a victim of a sexual assault or any kind of violent crime, even just a
Right.
mugging, it takes your power away from you,
It
and
does.
it makes us feel powerless and vulnerable. And then there's always the shame factor, of course,
For sure.
which are all things that have to be worked through. And I think it's amazing that you're doing this and you're putting yourself out there to help other people. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And, it's my hope that other people who are seeing this, watching this, reading it, whatever it may be, feel like they can speak up as well. And if we start normalizing these conversations, then we'll create a chain reaction. So I really appreciate you having me today.
I absolutely. I think that you're going to be a great help to a lot of people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.